Welcome to Women in Paint. Whether your paint story is dripless or an old school mix of project management, business ownership, or modern estimation, the stories of women in paint are now part of the industry's rising success. We'll educate, encourage, and promote diversity and gender equality by giving you a behind-the-scenes look at our proven skills, business acumen, and driving force that propels anyone to find meaningful opportunities and a career path that challenges lives through paint. Now let's welcome your host, Michael Cheney.
All right, welcome to the show. We are going live on Facebook and YouTube. I got my guy, Chris Moore, here with me again. Chris, thank you so much for joining me.
I always love doing this with you, Michael. Thanks for asking me. I always enjoy our conversations and hopping on and adding value anywhere that we can.
That's right. All right, well, let's get at it. It's been a while since we've done a few of our shows. Some of them are out there. They seem to be getting some good traction. Why don't you just give a brief introduction of who you are and what it is you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I founded Elite Business Advisors in 2018. I spent over a decade in the painting industry myself, starting at age 19 with student painters, had my own painting company here in the St. Louis area, and eventually transitioned into what we do now is nothing but coaching for painting contractors. So we are here to help people kind of get their business from where they want it to be at or where they're at now to where they want it to be at down the road. Myself, my whole team of advisors all have ran and managed a painting company, which I believe is kind of our superpower in that we've been in the shoes of everybody listening to this today in some way, shape, or form. So I always love to hop on and do things like this. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, right on. Chris, why do you think some people don't choose a business coach? And I say that being someone that has worked with coaches. I have a coach now, and I know how important it is. Why do you think some people don't make the jump?
So I think two reasons. One, people want to change, but they don't want to change. Okay. And I say that from the point of view, it's one thing to be like, yeah, I really want XYZ in my life or business. It's another thing to actually go through the process to change yourself and your business to achieve that. Right. And that's where I think a lot of people either feel like they have limiting beliefs that they can't do it, or they just really truthfully don't want to put the work in to get there. Right. Yeah. I think the other thing is they just don't understand the benefit of having another perspective. And I say this from a point of view, obviously everybody hearing this is going to just assume I'm biased in saying this, and that's okay. But I think everybody needs a coach in life, arguably in every area of our lives. Right. What I realized about having coaches and mentors in my life is they find blind spots that I don't see or can't see because I'm too stuck in the day-to-day, whether it's personal stuff in my life, business things. I have two different business coaches that I work with because I need help seeing those blind spots and a different perspective. So,
yeah, I was actually just telling someone the other day that, I feel like my business coaching experience with my coaches, it's kind of like a level of therapy. Okay. Like
100%.
It can be this like really kind of like intimate, connected relationship. Yep. And, when you're building a business, man, it's not easy. And when you can have someone that like really cares and really is invested, I really do think it's the next level. All right. So you and I have talked about a few different stages of being in the painting industry in terms of the revenue that a company makes. Yep. And we're at the point today where we're going to talk about kind of the $2 million mark and up and what that looks like and what that means. So to just kind of kick this off, what do you think are some mindset shifts that business owners, people like me, need to make when they start having a couple $1 million rolling in the door?
Yes. I think one of the biggest things is, and I don't think we talked about this a whole lot last time, but you have to shift from being like the technician, the operator, to a leader. Okay. You can get to the $1.5-2 million mark, right? You can kind of start getting yourself there, but now you're becoming the sales manager, the operations manager, right? The big visionary, the CEO, like there's a lot more pieces and people, I guess I should say, key leadership positions, right? It's one thing to be a leader to your field staff. It's another thing to now be a leader to the leaders in your company, right? And that takes a whole nother level of self-development, personal development, leadership growth, discipline, right? And put in all the buzzwords we always hear in the personal development space. And so I think for me, as you talk about like a mentality shift, it is that. It is no longer dependent upon you going and doing estimates as much as now coaching multiple people to go out and do the estimates, right? Not just training one, but how do I manage multiple salespeople until, again, maybe you can grow to a spot that you have a sales manager and other places in place.
Do you find that people have a difficult time not being the doer? Like, and I say this because I've, for many years, gotten sucked right back into it. But
yes.
what is the hang up? Why is it hard to stop being the doer?
I think truthfully, and I wrestle with this too. So let me like be very vulnerable and transparent with that, right? Like I always want to have an amount of people that I coach, but it's really hard for me sometimes not to get sucked back into working with some of our clients, which is a great thing. I think a lot of it comes from the point of view of like, we've built our businesses from literally nothing. Like there's a handful of people listening to this, and maybe you bought into a company, you bought a franchise, or you inherited, a family business, right? But for most of us, like we've done it from literally nothing. Like I remember the day where we didn't even have a bank account because we had no money to put in it, right? When it was first going. And so I think it's natural that we want, even those of us that have those, big visions, we're visionaries, we know where we want to go, but like it's still a foreign territory we're entering. We've never been there before, right? And I think if you look back along your journey to getting to this stage or wherever you're at in your business, if you look back across all the uncomfortable unknowns you've went through, it's really easy now to look back at them, right? It's really hard to look ahead because we've never been there before. And so I think, again, that's where sometimes having a coach can help you kind of work through that plan. But I think like that natural inclination is like, we want to just go back to doing it ourselves because it's our comfort zone. It's our safe space. And at the end of the day, it's our baby. Nobody is ever going to care more about your business than you do. I don't care how good you incentivize them. I don't care how good you empower them. I don't care how bought in they are. You could have the highest level of all three of those things and you still care more about your business than they do because it's not theirs.
Yeah, true story. True story for sure. I know that building systems and structure, at least for me personally, was one of the key elements to get me to stop being the doer. Because when I kept falling into the doer role, a lot of times my justification of it was, well, I'll just be able to get it done faster, right? I want something done now. I'm just going to get it done. And that is what pulled me back into that role. Let's talk about maybe some systems and structure that's needed. Why don't we just start with hiring? I mean, yes. I will tell you my big learning lesson, and I'm still learning it, is that one of the things I have to be really, really good at is finding people for the right position. And this is much deeper than, just trying to hire painters, right? Yes. Where what I've gotten to at each level is my barometer for hiring is I need to find someone that can do it better than me. Yes. Right. And by no means am I an expert, but because I'm strong-willed and I'm competitive and I'm going to do this, I have learned how to be good at these positions. And I got to the point where it's like, okay, now my job is to be really good at hiring, and I need to hire someone better than myself for the position. When I say that, I see you smiling, but what does that mean? Why is that striking you?
I love that you say that because Hannah from Surf Prep and I just did a podcast on this like a couple months ago. Here's what I will say about that. I think number one, for any entrepreneur, kind of like you were talking about mentality, you have to be able to put your ego aside and focus on the vision you want in your company. And you will never hire somebody smarter than you, better than you at whatever position you're talking about until you can like put that aside and realize it's for the best interest of your business and arguably probably your life to do that, right? Because if we were constantly hiring people less skilled than us, we're never going to get where we want it to go, right? Like it's like kind of that logical, like vicious cycle, right? And so when you can finally kind of check your ego at the door and say, I need to hire somebody smarter than me, because that's for the better good of our clients and our business and what I'm trying to achieve here. I think that's step one, right? I think the other benefit to this is when you hire people smarter than you, it also forces you to level up your game a little bit in a way that you can then lead those people, right? If you have an estimator that's actually better at sales than you, it's not that they won't have credibility with you. It's not that they won't follow you. You just have to lead them in a way that isn't 100% performance driven, right? And that's a good thing for your company if they're better than you at sales. You just have to up your leadership game to be able to lead somebody in a way that's actually better at you at that job than you were. And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, right? So I think, that's the biggest thing when you talk about the mentality side of it, is you have to be willing to be okay with that, but it's also going to challenge you and grow you in a better way that hiring somebody less intelligent than you are in that role wouldn't do.
Yeah. Because you're touching on what you're talking about is, leading leaders, which you said earlier, which is a different skill set. It's a different learning curve. Even throughout my experience over the last year or two, working with, leaders in my business, that's a different story than working with the painter, right? And you got to show up differently. You got to have one-on-ones, it turns out.
Yes, you have to coach people.
Meetings, right? You can't just go to a meeting unprepared. I mean, I suppose you can, but you're not setting a good precedent.
Or it's probably not a good thing if you haven't talked to your ops manager in 4 weeks, right? But that's exactly it, And I think, I even really back to when I had my painting company, and even as you talk about painters, and obviously now we're talking about hiring leaders at a different level. But the common question would come up, right, with homeowners and estimate, like, oh, are you going to be here? And I would joke and I would laugh and I'd be like, you don't want me here. And they're like, what? And I'm like, my painters are 5 times better painters than I am. Right. And I was actually a pretty decent painter, right? Even though I was a business owner turned craftsperson. And so I was like, I hire people that are better than me at this job so that you have the quality you deserve. Right. And they would kind of laugh. But I think it's true even again in that leadership role. Right.
Yeah. You're right. Because one of the things that we've kind of come up against where we're trying to change the conversation in the business is that because I'm still close to my team. I mean, I have painters on my team that I painted with, right? But it'll be, I will hear the team saying, well, let me check with the owner. Yeah. And I'm saying, no, we're not going to check with the owner. Because you actually are better equipped to make that decision than the owner, right? And so there's a shift in that, you can check with your team, right? By all means, if you need help, you can check with your team, but the owner is not in charge anymore. The owner actually is probably the worst person in the business to be making the decision you're trying to make. So there's that shift too. And it's about just giving the power over to your team. And then of course, trusting. But we know that if you're going to trust, like one of my favorite phrases is, inspect what you expect, right? Or trust but verify, from good old Ronald Reagan. And so that's why you have to have SOPs and tools to use. So talk about some of that structure and what it looks like as a leader leading leaders. Understanding KPIs, and I'll be happy to share in a moment, but how we've refocused on our KPIs and really set a foundation for now my leaders to be successful. What are you seeing with your clients, and what does it look like at this position where you need the structure, you need, a dashboard, a scorecard to really show how the business is doing?
No, I love it. I'm going to go at this from a lot of different angles. So I think number one, you mentioned structure. Like we have to have set one-on-one meetings, team meetings, everything. Like that is a non-negotiable at this point. If you have multiple, honestly, even when you start hiring your first PM or your first estimator, et cetera, you should have this in place. But if you haven't had that in place by now, maybe you've been able to kind of wing it to 2 million, and now you're hiring multiple of a lot of these roles. Like this is a non-negotiable. You have a weekly structured set in stone team meeting. And you have, one-on-ones at some frequency once a week, twice a month, something like that. But you have to have some structure behind it. And I think in that, you, again, being a good leader, need to have the KPIs that you're looking for in each role, right? What are the expectations? Whether it's the number of estimates gone on, the closing rates, all the different things. One thing I think I see, Michael, I've shared this a lot in some random conversations with clients. I see people trying to build compensation plans to incentivize behavior that should just be covered in a weekly meeting. And I love that, like, we're building all these comp plans with very in-depth spreadsheets. And did we get a 5-star Google review? You get an extra 1% commission and like all these different things, right? And it just creates a lot of extra work, a lot of admin, a lot of very in-depth spreadsheets, which you and I both know I love doing. But the point being, sometimes that's just a performance metric. Sometimes that's just an expectation. Hey, we expect you to get 7 new Google reviews every single month, right? And we're going to check in at our weekly meetings or biweekly meetings. And how are we tracking towards that, right? Like, so don't overcomplicate one thing because you're trying to incentivize behavior that should just be an expectation of their job. Okay.
That's a great point.
So KPIs, right? Every position should have a scorecard for it, right? When it's production, it's, scheduled work each week, it's work produced, it's the Google reviews. Like there's a lot of different metrics you need to have. And that becomes the point of your coaching, right? Again, at this point, you're not managing production, you were coaching production managers, right? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of that as you guys have been navigating that too. As far as SOPs goes, it's a must at this point. Like there's no question about it. Here's one thing I think is important to think about. So as you're hiring, to go back to that conversation, you're looking for either a who or a how. From the book Dan Sullivan. I love the book that he put out on that. You're looking for someone who can come in and build things and just like take something and run with it and build it with and for you. Or you're looking for a how, which can come into a perfectly built out system, but thinking for themselves and thinking ahead isn't really there, right? And there's stages when you need both of those. And so going back to the SOPs and processes, I think the question is, how dialed in are they right now? Like at this point, again, did we wing it to get to this stage? Because I've seen that a lot, and that's okay. And sometimes you need to kind of re-systematize and put things together for that next run and that next level of growth. So think through that. One of my coaches is Dan Martell. He wrote the book Buy Back Your Time. And, he says in there, actually on one of our calls, he said, you either have a people problem or a process problem. And a lot of times people think it's a people problem, but they realize it's actually a process problem. He said, you can never fault the person unless the process is dummy proof and dialed in so well that then you can say, well, you didn't follow the process, right? And I love that. Anytime I talk about SOPs, I try to share that. Like we have to make sure that our expectations and our processes are dialed in for these positions, because then we can benchmark if they're the right person for that role or not. But until that happens, we make decisions when really it's probably a process problem.
Yeah, I quote Dan Martell probably way too much. But
I love it.
I'm sure my team is over it. But
I love it.
I'll give you just like a quick temperature check that you can do at any point. Is you could say if you got 2 PMs in front of you or whatever, ask them about one of your processes. I actually did this and realized I needed to retrain the process, but I just said to the group, I said, what's our color matching process? And they gave different answers. Now that's on me at this point because my role in the business, I'm over production right now. And I'll soon be getting out of that. But so that's on me, right? I can't, that's not a people problem. That's a process problem. So I redefined it. We trained it. And then the other thing I'll say that I've learned being at this level is that you can't just train it once. So I kind of have this mentality right now, and I just have accepted this. And I don't know if this is right or wrong, but this is what I do is I just accept that if I roll something new out, I'm going to need to probably teach it 5 to 7 times. And I just accept it. Now, a lot of times people grasp on faster, right? But my job once I roll something out is to follow up, make sure they're doing it, check in, see if they need any clarification, right? And then after this 5 to 7 check-in period, then if they're not doing it, then maybe it's a people problem, right? But also I think that you understand your people and you know if you've got the right people. Somewhere in your gut, you know if you've got the right people. And if you do have the right people, it's probably a process issue.
100%. I think a lot of times too is we're hiring for key positions, whatever position it is, whatever part of your, business. We want to just hire someone, train once, and like let them just go crush it. That's what we want, right?
Nice.
Sometimes it's because that's what we need. Sometimes for myself, it's because that's my personality. Like I told you what to do. I told you how to do it. Like, why are you not doing it? Right. I'm thankfully very adaptive with my high D personality, but that's our natural tendency, right? As we're hiring for people, we want to hire those people that are smarter than us, that are more capable than us. But we have to stop and remind ourselves, like they're human beings, right? they probably don't eat, breathe, and sleep our business the way that we do, right? They don't think about it at 9 o'clock at night when our kids are finally in bed and asleep, and I actually have the first time to stop and think about anything is when I come up with all the crazy ideas, right? They're not doing that at 9 o'clock at night, probably, right? Unless they're really bought into the business, and that's fantastic. So, yeah, I think that's a great thing. I love that you said you have to accept it, and not in a terrible way, but just in a way that's like, hey, I just need to accept this is going to be the case, right? Yep. I'm going to have to spend some time training. I'm going to have to follow up on things. And again, like, I love your color match analogy. Like, unless it's documented in a playbook, that's one thing I've taken away from Dan. Everything needs playbooks. Unless it's documented somewhere, you can't be mad that they had different answers, right? Yep. And I appreciate that you just took accountability, and I do that with our team all the time. Like, there's something not documented, it's a process problem. Like, hey, that's my fault as the visionary that's overseeing how all of this works together. That's on me, but guess what? We're going to fix that, and we'll record a Loom video. It'll be in our playbook, and now everybody knows the process.
Right on. Good old Loom. Any other tools we want to throw out there? Loom's a good one. If you don't know what that is, you can record videos, training videos. It'll share your screen. That's a great one. And you know what, Chris, we use that if we just need to tighten something up and we've got a couple people doing just a little things different. We'll create a quick Loom video, send it out there in Slack. That's like how we will tighten things up quickly. It's a great tool.
Do you know what I literally did before we hopped on here? I recorded a 5-minute Loom video about something for our advisors and put it in our Slack channel. So
there you go.
No, I think just don't overcomplicate this. I see people that are like, oh, I need to, hire this company to do all this stuff, or I need, there's other, I know Tranual is one I've heard a lot of people talk about. They can record and document stuff. Like, just don't overcomplicate it. Like, there's nothing like a good Google Doc with hyperlinked to straight to the Loom videos, hyperlinked to Google Sheets, to your other Google Docs, to whatever, PDFs in there. That's great. Fantastic, right? Like, I see people trying to overcomplicate this and make this really amazing thing, when really just a Google Doc, Loom videos, and some linking throughout, and a nice outline can really that's all you need.
Yeah, totally. And I've said this to you before, I'm a big fan of ChatGPT, but if you're not like a wizard with spreadsheets, ChatGPT can help you with all the formulas. It's almost like you don't know how to have to do anything anymore. You just don't know how. You don't need to know anything. You can just ask our buddy ChatGPT. And
I love spreadsheets, but I would spend 20 minutes trying to figure something out. Like, I know this works. I just don't know what formula or what order, how I need to put this together. And I'm like, ChatGPT has become like a lifesaver for me, just to save 20 minutes every time I need a really complex formula. So I could not agree more with you on that one.
Yeah.
No, I can't think of anything else. I think those are a lot of the basics that will get people what they need to have.
Yeah. So this growth period is really about structure. The other thing, we talked a little bit about hiring, but the other big thing that I've really leaned into is starting to build out your bench, right? So, some of my key hires this year have had excellent books of business. And when I say books of business, I mean potential customers, whether it's, commercial folks, remodelers, designers. Great book of business there. But the other side of that book of business has to do with folks that are in sales, folks that are in production. And so if you can start thinking about your backups, your bench, it saves you a lot of time when you have to hire. There was a point, if I lost the estimator, and I didn't know that it was coming, man, did I struggle to find a new one and get it together. But when you really start thinking ahead, hiring becomes a lot easier.
I love it. It's the concept of planting seeds, right? Plant seeds now. I want to just expand on what you said there for a second real quick about the sales and who you're hiring on that, because at this point, you're growing beyond your first hire, right? At this level we're talking about now, you're looking into having 2 estimators, 2 project managers, right? Multiple positions. And with that comes additional leads. And everybody just immediately thinks like, oh, that means we have to spend X amount of dollars on marketing, right? Now, all of a sudden, this jump in this hire translates from salary or commission for this person plus all the excess we're going to need to generate the leads they need, right, to offset our gap. And so I think what you said on that, you kind of almost skimmed through it. I wanted to make sure everybody understood that point. When you can hire people that have self-generating activities behind them, they're used to doing a canvassing team,
Mhm.
or that's been part of their background. They love doing door-to-door sales, whatever that's going to look like, right? Keep your brand and what you're trying to achieve together. But if it's people that do have relationships with GCs and other things, and you're trying to get more into commercial work, like those, hiring people with those relationships can be invaluable, right? Those experiences, because it's going to help you bridge that gap to what you have to generate to hit that next stage and to pay for themselves. So
Yeah. And you know what, Chris, when you, as you grow and you become super solid in who you are as a business, and you're
Yep.
starting to really put together that culture that attracts people, then you can start attracting talent, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yep.
not, looking under rocks for your next sales folks. You're actually attracting talent. People
Yep.
are seeing what you're doing. And, the other thing about a book of business, I'll just tell you on the production side, we recently got a new project manager from another painting company. And guess what they brought with them? A great book of business full of subcontractors that we can use, right? So when you're hiring, you really do need to think about, it's not just you needing them. What value do they actually bring to your business? Can they walk in the door and bring customers? That's huge if that's the case.
Yep. And understanding, like, how do you compensate for that too? Right. Especially
Yes.
when you understand from a marketing perspective what your customer acquisition cost is, you can easily put together some bonuses and incentives as part of their comp plan on the estimator side of it, to offset that. Right.
Right.
And same thing for the production side of it, right? Like, how do you compensate that? That could be a little bit trickier, but like, is there a way to help incentivize for their relationships, because they're bringing value to your business, right? Like, at this point, it's not a time for money exchange like it is hiring a painter, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
what's the value they're bringing to your company. And if they're bringing quality, credible subs that can really change the game there, they're bringing in good streams of leads that can help offset your marketing cost. That's money well spent, and honestly could be a money saver overall for you and your business if you really think about it like that.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what the incentive is for that new PM to bring their existing subcontractors, is that they have a working relationship, and they don't have to test out a subcontractor, right? You go through all this, let me just test them out with a small project, see if it works. Well, they're bringing folks in that have already been killing it for them, that are hungry, want the work. And so for us, it's like, okay, you can slide that team in. Now you've got this team, they're going to produce for you at a high rate. I mean, my PMs get a bonus. It's only going to help my PM put more money in their pocket when they bring a team that's already stacked and ready to go.
I love it.
Yeah. All right, Chris, we're going to talk about your Elite Business Advisors Retreat.
Yes.
I know I'm super pumped about it. I see people talking about it all over social media. I know you've got some space left, but I know it's going fast.
Yep.
So tell us about this retreat, and who is this retreat for?
Absolutely. No, thanks for taking a minute to hit on that. So the Elite Business Retreat coming up July 23rd, 24th, and half day VIP on the 25th here in St. Louis, July 23rd, 24th, 25th. And I'm super stoked about it. So this event is designed for painting contractors. Our goal is to have 70 painting contractors in the room. We will stop it there. I do think we're going to sell out this year if things continue to be on pace. And our goal is to help you take a couple of days to reconnect with your business, refocus on some stuff on what you need to do in the second half of the year. I believe we have 10 or 11 workshops this year lined up. And I say workshops because all of our topics are about helping you work through things on your business. It's not just, hey, here's education, you're going to listen to us talk for an hour. We have a workbook put together. We have all of our speakers submit a couple of pages to go through and kind of workshop through some stuff. Even if it's some simple questions, some of it's going to be very in-depth things, right? And so we try to make this a point that you can take, 2 days to work on your business, because nobody's doing that at the end of July, right? And then the last one is reconnect with people, right? Sometimes, at PCA Expo, everybody comes out and they're on that, like, the high, right? Well, guess what? That high is burning off right now as we're in the middle of busy season. Sometimes we just need to reconnect with other people, be reminded that our problems are not just our own problems, and kind of get some energy to go back and tackle the second half of the year, right? So this is not just for our clients. I'm gonna make that very clear. It's for anybody in the entire industry. and in any size of business too. We have some people there that are just started out within the last year or two that are going to take away a lot of valuable education. We have some people like yourself that are in that the stage of business we're talking about here today that will also take away a lot of it. We have an amazing lineup of speakers coming. Michael, thank you for volunteering to come be a part of that. Our good friends Nick Slavic, Jason Paris, Chris Elliott, Matt and Maggie Kuiper, Dan Fleischer. I should have had this in front of me on a screen. Ryan and Danny Turry, Juan Vasquez. We have an amazing lineup of people coming, and a mental performance coach for the VIP part of it that works with business owners, pro athletes, and sports organizations. So it's going to be a super fun 2.5 days filled with content, filled with a lot of fun, a lot of downtime to collaborate, and some great workshops on top of it.
Yeah, that's a heck of a lineup, man. I'm super excited. I'm going to be talking about the no drip painting process, production process from start to finish. Some of it we touched on here today. So I can't wait to attend. I know I'm gonna learn.
Yes.
If someone is interested in attending, what is the best way? How do they find it? How do they
go to our website? It's elitebusinessadvisors.com. We have a landing page. You put /retreat on there or click retreat up on the menu when you get on there. It's got all the information on there. So it's got all of our speakers, all of our content lineup, what all of you guys are talking about, the cost, what's included, what the schedule looks like, a couple of promo videos on there, and then the registration portal's on there as well. So that's the best place you could go, is just straight to the website. Pretty much everything we have available is out there for you to see and get insight on. I'm always happy to answer questions if you have anything. So shoot us a DM on Instagram or Facebook. You can shoot me an email, chris@elitebusinessadvisors.com. Happy to answer any questions. Our room block ends here. It's supposed to be next week on the 24th. I'm going to probably get it extended for a week because the hotel's been great to work with on that. But we do have a discounted room block and stuff that you'll get the link for once you register. So
good deal. Awesome. How about some closing thoughts? And let me see if I can put you on the spot here.
Ooh, all right, you do that.
No, this is not going to be even. You'll crush this one. How about just share maybe kind of a book or two that you're super into right now, or podcast or something like that?
Ooh, that's good. I would say, man, I think I'm going to go back to Dan Martell. His book, Buy Back Your Time, is Buy Back Your Time. Is it that or Buy Your Time? Yeah, Buy Back Your Time. For whatever reason, that's a tongue twister for me. It, to me, is probably one of the best books at this stage of business you could really read to understand how people delegate to get ahead. Yeah. That's what I've loved about going through Dan's coaching program. He has a Zoom call every Wednesday. It's a group coaching thing. And I've taken so much away from that just to see how he runs a business and the way that he delegates and has all these systems and processes in place. And I think his book really shines a lot of light on that. And I think, again, a lot of us can get to a certain level in our business without having to delegate, or we start to delegate some. But I think to get past this next kind of stage that we're talking through today, Michael, you have to be able to do that at a really high level. And so I think reading that book will help you understand how to delegate, not just some of the administrative stuff, but on a much deeper level in your business. So that's the best thing I could think of.
Yeah, love him. All right. Well done, Chris. Thank you again for joining me. And depending on where you're finding us, if you're a Women in Paint, make sure you check out our Women in Paint Facebook page. You can also catch us anywhere on the PCA website, the Overdrive website. We've got Chris here. Catch him on all channels. You're on Instagram, Facebook, all the things.
Everywhere.
And
at Elite Business Advisors.
There you go. Hopefully we'll see y'all at the retreat.
Thanks, Michael.
Until next time. See ya.
Thank you for joining us on Women in Paint. We hope you feel compelled to follow your own path and use your compassion, strength, and skills to build a career in the paint industry. And if you like this episode as much as we did, give it a simple click to subscribe so we can invite you back to our next episode. And be sure to share it on all your socials. Remember, Women in Paint, stir up more than just a can of eggshell.